Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 27th of August, 10:30 in the morning, Sunday, so I hope you have a great weekend. For me, this weekend was quite busy, as it usually are, with few exceptions. And yesterday, even though it's my day off, I was in Moscow and decided to make update for main channels and simultaneously with news highlight some views of Moscow from certain areas. And if you are interested, you can see that update on my channel. It only has like 2500 views for this moment, so potentially we do have in our community members that may find this video interesting, because our videos usually have about 4,000 to 5,000 views. So my job is to inform you that there is an update from capital, from Moscow, walk and talk style video, and well, I will be grateful if you will find the time to check that video out. Hopefully you will find it interesting. And same time, yesterday I was simultaneously recording update for main channels, this one, and I was recording extra content for Patreon, and also I was recording video for a second channel, which is from Russia with Levan. You can see link to my second channel on under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. And well, as I did mention in my yesterday's update, from now on I will try to upload at least one new video a week on this new channel from Moscow region, from not just tourist destinations, but also from the places that are popular and interesting for local residents. And I will share some history about location, some information about cultural influence of that place. And well, hopefully this type of videos will gain some attraction, and this second channel will continue its development. As I said, you can see link under this video in the description box. This second channel is just about life in Russia, with minimal talk about news and politics. For this stuff, for news and politics, we have this channel, Levan Gudadze Opinion. So well, that's been said. Let me remind you, if I made that this project with several channels on YouTube, on Rumble, on Telegram, exists only because of support of members of our community. And I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, in which I do upload extra content on regular basis. Today, for example, once I will finish this update, I will upload a new video on Patreon also. And well, if you will consider to support, you can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, I will start with a short summary of the situation on the front line, on the battlefield. So let's begin from southern sectors and then up to northern ones. Kherson region, no significant changes, mainly artillery duels between the sides and wrecking operations, although several Russian media sources did report that during the previous 24 hours, Russian military did detect one more sabotage group of Ukrainian armed forces that was trying on 3 boats to cross the Dnieper River and establish a small bridgehead on the left bank. But this group was detected by Russian side and was destroyed. According to Russian sources, not a single member of that Ukrainian sabotage group did manage to escape and go back to right bank of the Dnieper, which is for time being controlled by Zelensky and his criminal associates. But overall situation on Kherson region is stable, one may say. It's kind of deadlock, and nothing is happening at the moment that will influence overall situation on this sector of the front. Next, of course, Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front on this land bridge between Crimea and the mainland Russia. And first of all, of course, I'm gonna share with you latest news about Orekhov direction, about settlements Rabotina and Verbova, which is here, by the way. And according to latest news, despite all the attempts from Ukrainian side to establish full control over the Rabotina, they are unable to do so, and line of contact right now is somewhere around the middle of this settlement. Ukrainian forces have control over the northern sector. Russian forces are still controlling southern sector, and the middle part of this quite small village. Just look at it, by the way. We are talking about village with just a few streets and 2-3 dozen of buildings, and that's it. And well, despite 3 months of fighting, basically, during this counteroffensive, so-called counteroffensive of Ukrainian army, Ukrainian side did not manage to establish control even over this small settlement. And as I mentioned in yesterday's update, because Ukrainian forces find it difficult to enter this settlement, Rabotina, they began to use some different tactics, and they are now pushing in between Rabotina and Verbova. And they did manage to establish control over some fields. I guess they won't this way force Russian side to withdraw from Rabotina, to somehow straighten make this contact line more straight. But let's see how will Russian side respond. We should notice that entire this operation from Russian point of view can be a big trap for Ukrainian armed forces, because day by day Ukrainian side is moving forward in Rabotina-Verbova direction, little by little, of course, but they are getting further and further from their main logistical points. And in this case, it's Novodanilovka, Malaya Takmachka, and of course Orekhov. And it's very possible that at some point Russian side will conduct some pincer movement from western and eastern sides, and will close this gap for all the Ukrainian brigades that are conducting now offensive operations in direction of Rabotina and Verbova. And well, these forces will end up in cold room. And I'll remind you that during these local scale offensive operations, Zelensky and his associates start using their last strategic reserves, mainly 82nd Brigade, which is armed with Striker, armored personnel carriers, Marder armored personnel carriers, and Challenger 2 tanks. And by the way, we did see destroyed Strikers and Marder armored personnel carriers, but we did not yet see Challenger 2s being used by Ukrainian side on the front line, which is quite interesting. I guess London more than sure that this so-called offensive of Ukrainian forces will fail, and maybe they are demanding from Kyiv to withdraw, or not to withdraw, but not to use Challenger 2 tanks, because I don't think London wants to see burned down Challengers or destroyed Challengers or captured by Russian forces Challenger 2 tanks. But anyway, right now, despite waves after waves of Ukrainian local scale offensive operations, Russian side is in operational control in this bridgehead that Ukrainian forces managed to establish in Zaporozhye sector of the front line. And well, my guess is, even if Russian forces will withdraw eventually from Rabotina, Ukrainian forces are in danger to be encircled in this area and destroyed. And I will give such a possibility quite high percentage, really. But overall, as I mentioned, Russian side is in full control on this sector of the front, and nothing is happening that can be called a breakthrough on part of Ukrainian activity or any more or less significant success. After all, it's 3 months since Ukrainian counteroffensive began, and as I mentioned, Ukrainian forces still are unable to reach first line of defense of Russian forces, and they are still fighting for this small village of Rabotina. That's it, really. When it comes to South Donetsk sector of the front line, in comparison to Zaporozhye sector, it's a really calm situation on South Donetsk sector. Ukrainian forces did try to conduct some local scale offensive operations, or at least try to improve their positions on Vremusky salient, but they did not manage to achieve anything, really. Main direction for Ukrainian forces in this area is Zavetное Желание settlement. As you can see, this settlement is also tiny, just 2-3 roads and dozens of buildings. And of course, next target for Ukrainian forces on this direction is Staromalinovka, also small village, but big one, significantly bigger than Zavetное Желание. But at this moment, Ukrainian forces are unable to achieve anything in direction of these settlements, and I guess it will stay this way for quite a while because of basically lack of manpower on part of Ukrainian forces. They just don't have enough manpower to conduct simultaneous local scale offensive operations in several directions, and they are concentrated now on Orekhov direction because, as I understand, they want to reach Tokmak, this settlement here, and which thus has a crucial meaning for Russian logistical operations. And in their dreams, Ukrainian forces maybe also want to reach or planning to reach Melitopol here, and then Berdyansk. But this is not happening, by the way. This is not happening. Ukrainian side can dream about anything. But at this point in this conflict, I guess everyone in Ukraine that has a critical ability to think critically do understands that this so-called counteroffensive has failed, and best decision on part of Kyiv will be to immediately start negotiations with Moscow about ceasefire before it's not too late. But we all know that Washington and London will not allow Zelensky to start peace talks right now under no circumstances, because in my opinion, main goal for Western so-called elites right now is to make sure that Russian side will neutralize majority of forces of Ukrainian army, so that when Poland, Romania and some other NATO member states will enter western regions of Ukraine, they will receive minimal resistance from Ukrainian forces. But anyway, let's continue now. And when it comes to Donetsk direction, also no significant changes. Artillery duels between the sides. Main hotspots are, of course, on the southern flank of Donetsk sector. It's Marinka, Krasnogorovka, and Avdeevka. When it comes to northern flank of Donetsk direction, it's Bakhmut. It's Bakhmut and flanks of the Bakhmut, but yet again, right now initiative on that areas are on Russian side. And let me use this map also. So when it comes to Bakhmut, initiative is in Russian side. And if in previous weeks we did see several attempts from Ukrainian forces, several waves of Ukrainian forces to achieve any more or less significant success on the flanks of Bakhmut, especially on the southern flanks. Nowadays, it's Russian forces that are conducting offensive operations, and not just on the northern flank and central direction of Bakhmut, but also on the southern flanks. And I don't see Ukrainian forces will be able to regain initiative in this area anytime soon or ever. And when it comes to northern sectors, we all know that initiative is totally in Russian hands, and it's not much to comment really. Only question when it comes to northern sectors is when Moscow will authorize large-scale offensive operation from Seversk direction and Seversk and Liman direction up to Kupiansk and entire Kharkov region. I guess we would not see a large-scale Russian offensive in the summer, because it's only a few days left before summer will end, but it may be that we will see such a offensive in the autumn. But if not, then, well, I guess Russian winter offensive becomes inevitable in that case. But right now, on the northern sectors, it's local scale skirmishes, recon operations between the sides, and artillery duels. Initiative is totally in Russian hands, and this is short summary of the situation on the front line. Now let's talk about some other news. And RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian air defense systems during the previous 24 hours did shut down several Ukrainian drones in Bryansk and Kursk regions. But at the same time, by the way, we have reports that one of the Ukrainian drones did manage to seems like go through Russian air defense systems and hit civilian apartment, high-rising civilian apartment. As you can see on this picture, some windows were shattered as a result of explosion on the top floor, and some damage was done to building. At this moment, we don't have reports about casualties as a result of this strike. By the way, maybe this was just a fragment of destroyed drone, but maybe it was a FPV drone or smaller version of attack drone. And as you can see from picture, damage is not that severe, because some drones are big and massive, and if they are striking buildings, well, damage is significantly bigger in that case. Let's continue now. And TASS news agency is reporting that Russian armed forces did repeal 7 local scale counteroffensives of Ukrainian armed forces in Krasny Liman direction. Well, as I mentioned, initiative on the northern sectors, including in Liman sector, is in Russian hands totally. But recently we had reports that Kyiv regime did deploy in the direction of northern sectors additional forces, including 13th brigade, by the way, which is last brigade from Ukraine strategic reserves that was not yet deployed on the front line. And well, I guess in coming days we will see some activization of Ukrainian side on northern sectors. They will probably try to regain initiative, at least in some directions, but I'm quite sure Ukrainian forces will manage to achieve just nothing. They will lose additional manpower, additional military equipments, and that's it really, because Russian forces are locked and ready in northern sectors to conduct large-scale offensive operations, and 1, 2, or 3 brigades of Ukrainian armed forces are nothing to them, just nothing. So this 13th Brigade will be humiliated and destroyed like 82nd Brigade was and is humiliated and destroyed on the Zaporozhye sector of the front. That's what will happen. Let's continue now, and RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian Dnieper group of forces did destroy, yes, three speedboats of Ukrainian armed forces with saboteurs on the board, with the units of saboteurs. Well, seems like, as I did reported just a few minutes ago, looks like Zelensky and his criminal associates are still trying to prepare ground in the southern sector of the front in Kherson region for a mass crossing of Dnieper, and they are constantly sending troops on the left bank, towards left bank. There are numerous attempts of a crossing of Dnieper, numerous attempts to establish control over these small islands on Dnieper River and the delta of this river, but Russian side is ready, by the way. Seems like after Ukrainian forces destroy Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant and after flooding of Kherson region, when first line of defense of Russian armed forces were also destroyed as a result of flooding, well, seems like Russian forces since then did manage to rebuild their first line of defense, and lately we do see that all these attempts of crossing of Dnieper from Ukrainian side are meeting fire straight away, and that's why I guess we are more often receiving reports from Zaporozhye region, from right bank of the Dnieper River, that Ukrainian units are refusing to obey orders and conduct this suicidal operation and cross operations and cross Dnieper River, or at least try. So yes, during the previous 24 hours, one more unit of Ukrainian armed forces were neutralized while they were trying to cross the Dnieper River. Let's continue, and this is TASS News Agency's report about possible mobilization in Ukraine. And according to former high-ranking official of LPR, ambassador of LPR in Moscow, while LPR was independent republic during this short period when Russia did recognize independence of LPR. So according to former LPR ambassador to Russia, Radion Miroshnik, Ukrainian side is preparing ground to forcefully mobilize additional 300,000 citizens. 300,000 citizens, which is, by the way, once again indicates exactly what I'm saying for many updates now, that Ukrainian armed forces have significant problem with the manpower. They are lacking manpower, and it's becoming obvious day by day. And well, I don't know if Zelensky and his associates will manage to forcefully mobilize 300,000 citizens of Ukraine, but they will be able probably to mobilize at least several thousand, maybe tens of thousands of citizens. And question is how long Ukrainian society will obey this craziness that was enforced on them by this drug addict, this Zelensky, this clown and puppet of the Western so-called elites. I mean, how long Ukrainian society gonna obey these orders from those criminals and mass murderers that are running and ruining Ukraine? I don't know, man. At this point, I truly don't understand what is going on in Ukraine. Why society is not willing to fight for their lives. Because they all know perfectly well Russia is no danger for them. Main danger for them is a regime that runs current Ukraine, modern Ukraine, and the Western masters of that regime. Majority of Ukrainian society absolutely sure about it, no doubts in my mind. So that's why I don't understand why there are being orders from these criminals. It's a truly suicidal passivity. I mean, this passive, this position of being passive and just observe situation is suicidal for Ukrainian society, man. I just don't understand this type of behavior. But anyway, let's continue with news. And by the way, according to Miroshnik, Ukrainian side already has lost about 400,000 soldiers KIA killed, which is just absolutely unbelievable number, isn't it? Yes, many military experts, including Western military experts like Colonel Douglas MacGregor, did mention that Ukrainian side already lost KIA 350 to 400,000 soldiers, but we have also similar information from Russian side now, which is just unimaginable, isn't it? Just if 400,000 soldiers was killed on Ukrainian side, just imagine how many was wounded. Million more. Unbelievable. And next news is from TASS news agency, and we have statement from Kadyrov, who said during one of the on his telegram that 4th assault brigade of Ukrainian armed forces, Ukrainian National Guard, lost 75 to 80% of its manpower in Bakhmut sector, especially in the southern flanks of Bakhmut during the clashes, local scale clashes. And in this area, Akhmat special forces are operating, so Kadyrov informed very well about situation in this area, and I have no reason to doubt these numbers. We all know that previously at least 2 other brigades were almost completely destroyed in the very same area, and I guess 4th brigade of Ukraine's National Guard did repeat fate of previous ones. And I'm quite sure, as I mentioned in this and many other updates, Ukrainian side would not be able to regain initiative in the Donetsk direction or in any other sector of the front, really, especially central and northern ones. But even on southern sectors of the front, in Kherson region, in Zaporozhye region, South Donetsk region, I believe Ukrainian forces won't be able to achieve any breakthrough, will not be able to maintain initiative for a while, even though right now one may say that it's Ukrainian forces that are more active, which is true, by the way, because Russian side is on defensive here and quite effectively repelling all the Ukrainian this so-called counteroffensive operations. But it's only a matter of time, maybe a week or two, and that's it. Ukrainian side will begin lose initiative in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front also. Let's wait and see, but I'm quite sure that's inevitable at this point. But anyway, let me continue, and this is quite interesting news. TASS news agency is reporting that in Zhytomyr region of Ukraine, 3 Ukrainian pilots died as a result of a plane crash. 2 L-39 training planes collide, as I understand, and 3 pilots, 3 Ukrainian pilots died. There are some rumors that those pilots supposed to be sent in some of the NATO member states to train for F-16s. To train for F-16s. I don't know about that, but what I do know, initially some media outlets report that it was a MiG-29 fighter jets that collide. But yesterday late afternoon we had additional news that it was L-39 training planes. But as a result of this, Ukrainian side lost 3 pilots. RT is reporting that Ukraine confirms secret meetings with NATO generals. Let me read a few sentences in this news. So, Western officials regularly receive up-to-date reports from the battlefield in Ukraine. President Vladimir Zelensky's top advisor has said, confirming reports about recent meeting between Kyiv's top general Valery Zaluzhny and the NATO commanders. There are a lot of meetings like that, Mikhail Podolyak told the Ukrainian TV channel Saturday. According to Podolyak, Kyiv's military strategy remains flexible, evolving in accordance with the situation on the ground. The general staff is constantly making adjustments depending on what is happening on the front line, Podolyak said. Well, Podolyak is one more clown of Kyiv regime. This criminal and mass murderer is just zero. It means nothing. But unfortunately, he does represent current regime in Kyiv, and Zelensky and the entire this gang of drug dealers and drug addicts. And well, even if Podolyak is saying that there are some meetings between Ukrainian generals and NATO generals, well, we all know who runs the show in reality, and Ukrainian generals, they are just just the puppets, really. They will do whatever they are told to do. And generals, they are just in, I mean, just, this is just formality, because real rulers of Ukraine, of course, are Western so-called elites and Western generals when it comes to military activity. And well, I guess this statement from this aide of Zelensky was made because recently in Western media we did see some articles with criticism of actions of Ukrainian forces. And I did report about it, and I did mention that with such articles, of course, Western so-called elites are trying to distance themselves from failures of Kyiv regime, and especially from failure of the so-called counteroffensive, and they are now beginning to blame directly or indirectly Ukrainian generals and Ukrainian so-called leadership. And this crazy individual, aide of Podolyak, aide of Zelensky, is just trying to redirect this blame, or trying to become a part of this blame game. And he is saying that, well, they are constantly in talks with Western generals, and well, not Russian but Ukrainian armed forces are adopting different tactics and so on. So he wants to highlight that well, Ukrainian side is listening to the Western masters. But anyway, I don't think this type of articles will be published, or this kind of statements from Kyiv will be published in the Western media, because main line of Western propaganda now, as I understand, is to widen this gap or distance between failed Kyiv regime and their counteroffensive and the Western so-called elites. And no matter Podolyak or who else will try to state that there are no divisions between the sides, and Ukrainian forces are communicating with the NATO and are conducting themselves exactly as they are told. No, in this blame game, Kyiv regime has no chance, by the way. Not chance. But anyway, Anyway, let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that one of the Russian military experts, head of Russian military magazine National Defense, Igor Karachenko, did made a statement that potentially Ukraine may receive up to 200 F-16 fighter jets if deliveries of this type of weapons will truly begin. Well, I'm not military expert, and it's hard to me to this how you say it, hard to me to well, I sometimes I find it difficult to find the right words, but anyway, I'm not military expert, and it's difficult for me to say is this person, Igor Karachenko, is right or wrong. He is a military expert after all, but well, you know my take on all this story of Western fighter jets. I don't believe that Zelensky and his associates will ever have any real control over the Western fighters. That's my take on it. But potentially, according to Russian military expert, Western states or NATO member states may deliver to Zelensky up to 200 F-16s, which is quite a number. And by the way, we should never underestimate capabilities of F-16s, even if they are older versions. These fighter jets, these fighter bombers are great representatives of fourth generation fighters, and even 10 F-16s are serious power, especially against a side that has no significant air force or air defense systems. 200 planes, it's just an unbelievable number, but yet again I have some doubts. I truly have some doubts that Ukraine will, or Zelensky will, ever have any real control over the Western made fighter jets, F-16s or F-18s or whatever NATO member states are producing now. And well, unfortunately, yes, I stuck on that. Let me find that right word, because debate, yes, that's the word that I was looking for. Debate. I'm not military expert, and it's hard to me to debate Igor Karachenko, who is a military expert. But I have my opinion. And I don't think current regime in Kyiv will ever have any real control over any Western-made fighter jets. In my understanding, Western fighter jets will be introduced to the battlefield only when Poland, Romania, some other NATO member states will send their forces in the western regions of Ukraine and simultaneously try to establish a no-fly zone over the western regions. That's when Western fighter jets will be introduced to the battlefield, in my understanding. But yet again, I'm not military expert, so time will tell. Interfax is reporting that US helicopter with 20 Marines crashed in Australia during the military exercises. A very unfortunate incident for US and the US militaries. There is no reports about casualties. There are no, at least for this moment, no reports how many US military personnel died or was injured or did survive. But this tragic incident did take place during the military exercises Predators Run, under such a name, and in these exercises not just US was participating, but also militaries from Philippines, Indonesia, and Eastern Timor, with Australians, of course, with Australians. Well, let's hope all personnel, all military personnel did manage to somehow survive this crash. And I did share on my Telegram video footage of V22 Osprey helicopter. This is a mix. This is not exactly the helicopter. It's like it can land and take off like a helicopter, and then it does moves its rotors forward and then can fly as a plane. But I'm quite sure you all are familiar with this aerial vehicle. So yes, that's a report about crash of V22 Osprey. Let's continue, and RT is reporting that, how long is this? 41 minutes. Wow, and so many news are left. Okay, I will just go through headlines. So RT is reporting that according to Foreign Minister of Hungary, and let me read it for you, Europe is destroying itself in the name of supporting Ukraine, and the EU sanctions policies is a laughingstock on the global stage. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó, I guess, has declared. Well, who will disagree with him? I mean, really. Hungary is a truly exception country that has a leadership that, in my understanding, really cares about interests of citizens of Hungary. And they have courage to do so and to have their own opinion about world events, and among them about Ukrainian crisis. Definitely people that do deserve respect, undoubtedly. And RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian ambassador in Central African Republic did make statement that Republic's government is asking Russia for aid in security, and well, I guess Russian side will respond on this request, and probably in Central African Republic will be sent not just Wagner PMC units, but also possibly military personnel or instructors from Russian army. It's possibility. Let's continue. RT is reporting that well, use of euro in global payments nosedives, and this is data from SWIFT. So let me also read a few sentences. So use of the euro for international settlements excuse me, I get cold. So use of euro in international settlements dropped to its lowest level on the record in July, and this is this information based on data from SWIFT. Statistics show that the proportions of cross-border transactions involved the world's second most popular currency, euro, fell to 24.4% last month, down by 6.83 percentage point on the previous months. Well, euro is losing its popularity, but the dollar is increasing its popularity, maybe as a result of fail of euro, because payments using the US dollar climbed to 46.4%, while cross-border transactions with the Chinese yuan rose to more than 3%. So yes, dollar and yuan are gaining some positions in world trade, and euro is losing. But I guess this is for short period of time, because in the future in my understanding of big picture, in the future we will have at least three main reserve currencies. One will be US dollar, one will be euro, and one will be whatever currency will be made or created by BRICS member states. BRICS currency gonna be third, or will be third world reserve currency in the future. So euro will also stay as one of the world reserves currency. If it will lose some positions, it's nothing that dramatic really for EU or euro. But anyway, let's continue. Yes, EU acknowledge unprecedented fall of trade between EU and Russia, and this was stated by Clown Borrell, one of the top bureaucrats of EU, and according to his numbers, import in EU from Russia fell 70% in comparison to 2021, and export from EU to Russia did fail 54% in comparison to same period of time. Well, bad, very bad for economies of two countries and for businesses of two countries. But if Russian economy is somehow manages to withstand this pressure from the Western so-called elites, then Western economies, Western businesses, they are truly struggling because this struggle was caused by their own elites, so-called elites, by their own governments. In Russia, we at least can say that, you know what, there are some difficulties, but just look at it, man. Entire so-called Western elite is against us, and well, we have to go through these difficult times. We have no other option. But when it comes to Western world, what people gonna say there when this struggle that they are going through is caused by their own governments? Crazy, isn't it? And these numbers means thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of closed businesses and hundreds of thousands of lost jobs, by the way, in the EU. And Borrell, this really crazy, sick clown, is happy about it, and he's bragging about it. You know, that look at it. You know, trade is failed, so sanctions are working. Stupid idiot. I mean, this unbelievable, man. How these people can represent EU, man? It's just surreal, you know. It's unbelievable. But anyway, this update is too long, man. 48 minutes. Okay, I will end. Russia toughens exit rules for Western firms. This is gonna be last news for today's update. So if Western companies want to sell their assets in Russia, they have to sell their assets under 50% discount, and then they have to pay 10% of entire amount to Russian as a tax. So this is Russian response on the withdrawal of Western companies from Russia. Tough response, but it is what it is. Yet again, this was caused by very same Western so-called elites, isn't it? Not Russia initiate this economical war or sanctions war. And well, this is gonna be last news for today's update. If any significant development, of course, I will record second update later on in the afternoon or in the evening. Hopefully you will find this update interesting, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you think this project, this channel interesting, useful, deserves to exist, Please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. I wish you a great day and a successful upcoming new week. Take care.